Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Bakukul Yurth Green, the 10th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my review of The Messenger by Douglas Niles. Now, I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga YouTube members and Patreon patrons and invite you to consider becoming a member or patron. You can even pick up Dragonlance Media or get $10 signing up to start playing games using my affiliate links in the description below. Now, with this review, it's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. If yours differs, I invite you to share it. Put it in YouTube chat if you're joining live, or put it in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. I welcome disparate perspectives. Seems to be a rare trait nowadays, but I do. All right. The way these work, I'm going to give you my pre-written review, and then I'm just going to riff on the characters, the story, the setting, and all that good jazz. So if you got any thoughts, let me know. All right, here we go. The first third of this novel has a really good setup. A young woman named Maureen is the daughter of the nice barbarian tribal chief of the Arctos. She's a great spearwoman, but is forbidden from joining the males as they go hunt. This ends up being fortuitous, as ogres sail into the harbor and I shouldn't say sail, because they actually row into the harbor by slaves. They don't have sails, but they murder and capture the men as slaves. They come ashore and are led by Grimoire Bane, the prince of the Winterheim ogres, and his assistant, a dwarf named Baldric Dinmaker. They claim this land and the people, then begin questioning them about an elf. No one has ever seen an elf, and the ogres then leave. Maureen and a few of the kids and the shaman of the tribe fled to a place called Hiding Hole, then after witnessing the calamity. They fled to Goose Pond toward Tall Cedar Bay afterward. With no more family, everyone is scared and terrified. They don't know how they're going to survive, as winter is coming and you need a good storage of food. They pick up more survivors as they travel toward Brackenrock. Maureen is a great hunter, but she can't get enough for everyone to survive the winter. They come across the Thanoite tribe cutting up a whale, and they decide to waylay them. They end up being successful, and the survivors make Maureen their chief. They're met by Lars Redbeard of Gilderglow, who tells them that Strongwind Whalebone, the king of Icereach, would like to see her. She refuses, saying if he wants to see her, he can come to her. This leaves the messenger speechless, as it's never happened before, and they leave. Separately, an elf named Kendrick Fallabrine is planning to meet up with his lover, Glorianne Diridar. Because they're from different classes, it's a secret affair. He's caught trying to meet up with her that night by her father, brother, and betrothed. They ensorcelled her, repairing her virginity and wiping him from her mind, which is just a weird thing to do. I get there's those freaky dudes out there that are super protective over stuff that they have no right being protective over. But having a wizard repair the virginity of your betrothed is a step too far. At least in my opinion. Then they beat the hell out of him and took him in front of the speaker, Nethas. Kerrick was favored by Nethas until this incident. His father is in the House Mariner and was a bit of a hero. Kerrick lost his parents and was brought in as a scribe for the speaker. Now he's banished from Silvanesti unless he can return with news of the gold that his father claimed to have discovered hidden away somewhere south. The elves need gold, which has been diverted to the king priest of Istar, leaving them to make do with steel. So this is clearly set in the early eras of Istar as a real empire. With no choice, Kerrick leaves his homeland on his father's ship and sails into the ocean. He crashes into something, and it's revealed to be a dragon turtle. The beast sank a Kender ship named Coraltop Netfisher, who climbed on board. Kerrick realized the dragon woke up and went under the surface. Coraltop said that this was how it sank his former ship, and then the dragon turtle sank his ship. Kerrick was knocked out. Back with the ogres, they return home to Winterheim, and the king was not much pleased to see the slaves all scrawny after nearly starving in the 3-month ship travel. Grimoire goes to see his wife, who is a priestess, and she reiterates that the elf messenger is fated to destroy their kingdom with a human female. This is clearly in reference to Maureen and Kerrick. I assume Kerrick is going to wash up on shore near Meereen, and they're going to work together. We also learn that Kerrick's father gave him some form of artifact only to be used in dire circumstances. It will be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm really getting into this. The second third of the novel, the second act, focuses primarily on the remaining Arctos tribeswomen and children. Once again, the Highlander spokesman approaches with food, furs, and gold to ask Meereen to speak with their king. This time, knowing that they need the furs and food, she agrees. She's led to their city and sees how large and splendid it is. She's frank with the king, who seems to not mind it, and he walks her through his castle, showing her the sights. He shares his desire to have her for his queen and her tribal women to be second wives to his men so they can breed a new generation of warriors and destroy the ogres. Shocked that her people would be bred as second wives or concubines, and furious at the insinuation that she would agree to it, she rebukes him. He's angry about it, but she leaves unharmed. They continue to believe that there's a citadel where they can hold out past the worst of the annual winter storm. The king sends men to follow her, certain that she will change her mind. Back with Kerrick, he wakes up to find the dragon turtle didn't destroy his ship, and the Kender is actively taking care of him. He's been out for nearly a month, and this is something I need to note really quick in this story. Time passes quickly. They jump from like a 4-week to an 8-week to longer time spans, so just be prepared for that. It broke part of his ship, but it could be repaired. They eventually continue south-southwest, only to find land. They get closer and enter a bay. They decide to have the Kender fish and Kerrick go hunt. This is where the Arctos find Kerrick. They ambush him and capture him. When Meereen discovers the Highlanders are following her, she goes to them and tells them to bring their king to her, as she has reconsidered his proposal. This is a stalling tactic of hers, as she is sure that they will be across the bay on the prisoner's ship before the king arrives. The Highlanders send a runner and wait for their king as Meereen returns and demands the elf take them across the bay. He refuses. He clearly has leverage, as they have never sailed a sailboat. They barter the gold, which is worthless to them, but Kerrick prizes for passage, and he agrees. He takes them one group at a time across the bay, and when there's only one group left, their scout reports that the king has already arrived. This is much faster than anticipated, so Meereen sends the scout and her people to get on the boat as quickly as it arrives, and she will find a way to join them. She meets with the king, who is angry that she lied to him, and that they left their supposed meeting place. He also doesn't trust her now, and she leads them to where her group is. At the last minute, she flees from them and leaps aboard the boat from above. It sets sail with the king furious on shore, watching. Meereen tells Kerrick about the coming storm, and it'll trap and destroy the ship if he doesn't get away soon. He drops him off and flees as fast as he can, hoping to outrun the storm. The Arctos travel in the morning to the citadel, only to discover it's populated by Thanoi, who kills many of them and chases them off. With the storm coming, the pissed-off Highlander king and the ogres looking to squash them all, this is proving to be a wild and interesting book. What a third act to follow it all up. The ogres have their annual Stormfrost ceremony, which is meant as an honor to their god, and also heralds in the massive storm front, which freezes Icewall for months. This year, Prince Grimoire could no longer handle being under the rule of his father, King Grimtooth. He tells him to end the ceremony and become king. As the Stormfrost sweeps... he kills him to end the ceremony and becomes king. As the Stormfrost sweeps across the ice wall, Kerrick and the Kender are trying to sail out of the bay as the storm closes the gap. They turn back and see a visual sign directing them to Meereen's cave. This is where we have to address the Kender. It's not actually there. I believe he's a manifestation of Chislev, the god of the human barbarians, and I believed he saved Kerrick so that Kerrick could help save his people. And this is evidenced by the fact that whenever anyone else is on the ship, the Kender is nowhere to be found, just completely disappears. Then when Kerrick's alone on the ship, the Kender pops up, saying he was sleeping or he was fishing or he was, doing one thing or another. And then when there's going to be a moment later on where Kerrick, like on the cover of the book, is sort of trapped on this drifting piece of ice, basically going to die, the Kender comes and saves him. But no one else can ever see the Kender, and the Kender doesn't actually exist. So it has to be some sort of avatar of the god Chislev, which is interesting because we've never seen an avatar of Chislev take like a humanoid form before. At least I haven't. And I've never really thought about Chislev having avatars on Krynn. And it makes sense that they would, or it would, because all the other gods have their own versions of avatars. It's just never really thought about it before, and it's kind of nice to see it. Okay. This is also the omen of doom to the ogres. As Kerrick returns to Meereen, they get trapped by the storm. They're living in a cave. As the storm freezes over the bay, the barbarian king Strongwind orders his army across the frozen water to assault the Arctos who dared mock him. Simultaneously, the Thanoi king Urgas returns to the ogres to report that humans are trying to attack Brackenrock, their citadel, where they were staying. As the human Highlanders capture the Arctos by surprising... but surprised, the ogres are rushing to the cave to kill the Arctos. Sorry, that sentence, I should have proofread this first. This happens to me a lot, and I apologize to anyone who's ever reading my show note descriptions after this. Whenever I do the reviews, I tend not to proofread them, and I really should because I have tons of mistakes in them as far as context and spelling and stuff like that. Okay, as the human Highlanders capture the Arctos by surprise, the ogres are now rushing to the cave to kill the Arctos. The Highlanders are truly brutal, and their king all but becomes a rapist. Straight up. He traps Kerrick onto a piece of ice in order to drown him, and the Arctos shaman casts a spell of protection on him. This saves him as he escapes with the help of the Kender and is recaptured by the ogres. As the king is prepping to rape Meereen, the ogres attack. The Highlanders and Arctos all work together to fight the ogre army. The Arctos learn about a small tunnel that leads to Brackenrock, and they decide to split their forces. Meereen leads half of the army to Brackenrock and attacks the Thanoi in surprise, as the other half, led by Strongwind, holds the ogres in the cave. The shaman and the cleric work together to collapse the cave, which blocks the ogres, but the Highlander king is trapped on the side of the ogres. Kerrick escapes the ogres and captures the dwarf, who happens to be, coincidentally, the second mate from his dad's voyage that led him to his doom. This is way too much of a coincidence that I'm going to talk about in a minute. He ends up killing the dwarf, and the Kender reappears as they sail away on their ship, only to see the Highlander king nearly being caught by the ogres. Kerrick waves the king down, unknowing that it is the king, to his surprise, finding out that it's the man who tried to have him killed. They end up working together to get to Brackenrock before the remaining army, and the king uses Kerrick's ring, which was the artifact his father gave him, which is basically just a ring of strength, to beat them all there by climbing straight up this cliff face, basically. Once there, they start an avalanche from the massive snow buildup on top of the keep, washing most of the army into the bay and drowning them. The ogre king and his shaman wife are wounded, and they flee into the bay, swearing to return in the summer with reinforcements. The end of this novel is really nice. I was worried that the two human tribes would just gloss over the whole rape thing, but while they're not actively at each other's throats, it's clearly not forgotten. The king is truly sorry and willing to hear Meereen's judgment as the human tribes try to move forward in a positive way. Kerrick decides to stay for a while and sees the Kender briefly on his ship, waving at him. And that's the story. It was so refreshing to get such a diverse array of cultures and races, all pitted against each other, but still feeling earned and true to Dragonlance in a place where we don't get many stories out of, the Icewall. So if you're a fan of Icewall or barbarians or even ogres, you should really read this novel. It's great. All right, what do you guys have to say? Chris, thanks for tuning in. You never read this one, but always enjoyed the Thanoi. This is a great novel. First of all, Douglas Niles seldom disappoints, and he really did a great job here. There's a few points that I'm going to bring up in a minute, but I was wildly entertained and surprised by this because I wasn't really looking forward to reading it. Repairing one's virginity is being called being married for 20 years. You think about the Thanoi entirely different now after Mike Perry's take on them. He did a great job with them. Yeah. Range Musket, thanks for tuning in. You need to give side stories another chance. This sounds pretty good. It was dope. Really good storytelling. what you think about Ansalon and the vast number of predators and wars further north, you can understand why people would want to live in more remote areas like Icewall, despite its harsh climate. Well, I really like this because it's after the Third Dragon Army. I'm sorry. It's after the Third Dragon War, but it's only like, I think it's like 500 years or something like that after the Dragon War, the Third Dragon War. So this is really heavily steeped in the Age of Might, where we've never heard anything about Icewall before. And this was clearly, released decades ago. So it's not like it's new, but it's new to me. And it was really, really refreshing to get this time frame and a really interesting story to show the diverse array of humanity, ogres, Fanoi, etc. in this area of Icereach. It really makes me want to finish this trilogy quickly. A god lowering himself to appear as a Kender. Lowering himself. How dare you? You bet the other gods will never let Chislev live that down. Now, it's never outrightly stated that the Kender is Chislev. It's inferred. At least that's my interpretation. It is clearly stated that the Kender's not actually there and only Kerrick experiences him. But he was saved by the Kender multiple times, and Kerrick is the one person that ends up being key to uniting the human tribes against the ogres and fulfilling the prophecy that the ogre priestess foretold of a human and an elf defeating them. So I'm thinking it has to be the god, and it's always Chislev whenever it's referencing the human barbarians. Like all tribes, they interpret the god in different ways, but it's the same god. So that's why I think it's Chislev. Laura, how you doing? Just Dirty Henry, thanks for tuning in. You think Chislev has an avatar show up or something in a 2E module? Oh, that's cool. I haven't checked that out yet. Some take issues with topics like rape and fantasy, but it's based on a medieval time reign where, sadly, that's more common. The authors aren't glorifying it. It wasn't glorified in this, and while, it's a horrible reality, it's just an act that even happens till today, unfortunately. But it is something that I thought was strange that the king went from, I'm going to hold you up as a queen. Might as well talk about it now. I'm going to hold you up as a queen and you're going to rule by my side as an equal, to you scorned me. So now I'm going to lock you in a room and just rape you so you can have my babies without ever seeing the light of day again. It's like, whoa, that was a quick 180 from I'm revering you to fuck you, you're a baby making machine. Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped the F-bomb. You're a baby making machine. And it was just too much of a quick shift. And I felt like I had whiplash from it. And then equally, right after the scene where he's literally about to start raping her and she's like resisting him, the ogres attack and he's like, here's a bunch of weapons, help us fight. If I was her, I would just run him through right there and try to escape on my own, rather than work side by side with my would-be rapist. That just seems so strange to me. And I understand the concept of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but my enemy didn't rape me just before that statement. So it becomes an entirely different juxtaposition of events and potential connections that I just could not buy in the moment. I liked that the character of Maureen did not ever forgive him and that she's still angry, but she's seeing it from the 1,000-foot level of, I need to protect my people. Clearly, these two tribes have more in common than they don't. We shared a historical connection to this citadel. We can't avoid each other. We're stuck in the Icereach together. Maybe I have to look past his horrid flaws for the sake of my people so that we can live in some semblance of peace, because we know those ogres are coming back. So with all of that wrapped up and together, and the fact that he didn't actually rape her, he just almost did, I can sort of come around on the side of it. But it's still really rough. I just don't think it's a forgivable act. I think anyone that has to resort to rape, I know they say it's about power, it's not about sex, but 100% of rape cases end in sex. So it's clearly about sex in some measure. anyone who has to resort to rape is pathetic, and anyone who engages in rape should be castrated, in my opinion. I don't find it a forgivable act, and I don't find it justifiable in any case at all. So it's a crime, it's a horrendous crime, and people should be punished for it accordingly. Equally so as claiming false rape should be punished accordingly. So all that to be said, it was a difficult experience for me to get through. I can only imagine someone who's actually unfortunately had to endure some semblance of that experience, first or second hand. It would probably be very triggering for them reading it in this way. So brutal. Let's see. This is the first book in the trilogy. I see the armies or the humans working together. And so they're going to have the Highlanders' kingdom, and then they're going to have the Arctos' kingdom, and they're all going to be working together with Kerrick to be facing against the coming ogres and the consistent Thanoi invasion threat. I think that's where it's going to go, but I have no idea. And I like that, because while this is a nicely contained first book, it is a part of a trilogy. And so there is more to come. And I am so impressed with this first novel that I can't wait to see where it goes. Just Dirty Henry. Okay, so that plays out 500 years after the Dragon Wars, aka Huma. Yes. What happened to humankind in that time? Crazy. Well, what I also liked about this is that it explained how the ogres ended up down here, and it explained a huge history of the ogres and stuff, which I found very, very fascinating. And it doesn't go into tons of detail, but it was enough to make me, keep me interested. I'm trying to find my note. So basically, King Barkin sailed to Icereach after the heresy of Igraine. So this was way back in the Age of Dreams, I think it was, when Igraine split away from the other Irda ogres, and they went off to Anatha in the north in the island, and the rest of the ogres sort of were devolving. A portion of that group of ogres fled down to Icereach and just set up a kingdom there. And that's where this group of ogres came from. As far as like the elves, they were suffering under the King Priest of Istar demanding all gold go to their Istar's kingdom. And so the Silvanesti needed gold, which is why they sent Kerrick to go find where his father claimed he could find gold. And that was the only reason why Kerrick wasn't killed, for having this out of class approved affair. And then what else? The humans, I mean, this is just one group of humans that, the plainsmen that just ended up in Icereach. So all of the other humans in northern Ansalon and southern Ansalon are still either plainsmen or setting up their empires like Ergoth and Salamnia and Istar and all that stuff. That's all still happening. This is just running concurrently in a completely different continent because it hasn't, the cataclysm hasn't happened. Icereach is not a part of Ansalon yet. The glaciers have not come and swallowed up Tarsus. So it's just very fascinating to me. I love the history and how it's all interconnected. Nice. Niles always honored and understood Dragonlance lore much more because he wrote most of it. Niles was a bigger contributor to the overall lore of Dragonlance than Margaret Weiss and Trace Hickman ever were. Like, full stop. He wrote so much of all game products, of every game edition, and so many novels. He's not given the due that I believe he deserves. You always appreciated that. Yeah. So that is the first of the Icewall trilogy. If you're into complex, interesting stories like this in a timeline like this, do yourself a favor and check it out. It only took me 3 days to burn through it. I focused on doing only 100 pages a day. So it was very easy just to get through the book. And it was a good time too. So do yourself a favor. You can actually, if you don't have it at your local library, you can borrow it online at Internet Archive. That's where I read it. It's definitely worth the read though. So check it out. All right. That is my review of The Messenger by Douglas Niles. What do you think of the Kender Coral Top Netfisher? Was the scene of attempted rape to working together against the ogres too quick for you? And finally, will the humans be able to stand against the coming ogre army? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I would like to thank creator patrons Aaron Hardy and D. Robert Handy, developer patrons Chris Androu and Sam Ruiz, and all of the YouTube members. I'd also like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. It all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the DragonLance Saga. I hope you'll join in that celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with DragonLance Saga, and until next time, Slanjavar.